From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision Bill Fisher. There's soon to be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, our Captain Marvel, Head Flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk, and our Batman, master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission? To fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes and Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
What?
I've been thinking about this Sentinel system.
Yeah. Tell me about the Sentinel system.
So what I was thinking was we have the one car that's got the aim dash that's slowing us down. Because installing the aim dash is actually, it probably is easy, but it's quite hard the first time. And we haven't figured that out yet. The Sentinel system is really easy to set up. So what I was thinking was, why don't we put it in the Lemons car? And we'll worry about the aim data information separately. And we'll kind of break it down into a project. Because then we'd have the motorsports video system that we really, really want, and we'd be able to stream it. We just won't have the data inside, but we have the data outside, so we can combine them later. But I think that's a really good solution.
So what does this Sentinel system do?
Well, if it had the aim data, it would have all the data on the screen, and you could see all their telemetry and everything live. But we'd be able to not only record it for viewing after the race, but we could actually watch our car during the race.
Ooh, like on the monitor and everything?
On a monitor, if you were at home and I was at a track, or if you were at the track and I was at home, depends on who gets the short straw, but we'd be able to watch each other.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
And you know what? If you're driving, you know what you can do on the Sentinel system?
What's that?
You can communicate to me with your hands, and I can't do a thing about it.
Even better.
So, if you need to give a wave or a Jersey wave, whatever you need, we could save it and see it on the screen. And then you can have up to 3 different cameras, and it'll have picture in picture. You'll have the basic main shot out the front window, and then 2 cameras where you put them wherever you want. One could be on the driver, or one could be on the rear view. It's kind of cool.
Then we can upload it onto YouTube.
We could bore millions of people on YouTube.
I love it.
All right. Very well. You know what the only downside I see about this?
What?
Your mom and my mom are going to be panic stricken the entire weekend watching this thing to see if everything's going well.
This is true.
We probably shouldn't tell them.
I like the idea of having a Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily we have maybe 2. Depends on how things go. We're going to try. All right. That sounds like a plan. That's the project. We got to get that ready for the next race.
Sounds great.
All right. Very well. Thank you, ma'am.
Dominating with Dawson.
Vicki, what's better than dominating with Dawson with Ben Dawson?
Oh, tell me.
Dominating with Dawson with Ben Dawson and Jeremy Hall.
Yeah.
That's right. 2 for the price of 1. So
yeah,
you get for the same price that you've paid for all your prior dominating with Dawsons, you now get the supersized version.
Yeah.
And
doubled up.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. We've got them all here. So we've got a topic that is such a good topic that Ben didn't even know what I was asking when I put the topic down. So we're going to do that one and just have too much fun with it.
That's perfect.
Exactly. So what I thought would be something worthwhile to talk about on Dominating with Dawson, especially as we're starting to actually have gone through several different tracks and seen more and more tracks with experiences at different tracks. Are there some tracks that are great to learn on or better for beginning to learn to drive on, and then there's others that aren't so good to go to, like to beginner, first time driver on the track, maybe high consequence tracks, perhaps?
Yeah, there
Any
could be
thoughts?
a consideration about that. The reason I kind of was like not quite sure when I read it was because I started at a pretty high speed, high consequence place. Just happened to be just regionally close to where I was. Like, and VIR has been my kind of home for almost 20 years at this point. And that's a place that's pretty scary and daunting, but it was the closest place to me. So I didn't really frame the beginning of my track driving career that way, just because I just drove the place that was close to me, which also happens to be sort of scary. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably better and safer to go learn some driving skills at a place that's not as consequence heavy. You know, when I say that, it's, a place that has walls really close to the track, like Road Atlanta. We talked about Watkins Glen, Sears Point out west is like that. Those are a few where you can learn some pretty expensive lessons very quickly there. It's, if you're an inexperienced driver and you end up going off course, which happens when you're inexperienced. But places near me like Carolina Motorsports Park is a place where you can go do a lot of learning without a lot of consequence if you mess up and go off course, because there's a lot of runoffs. I mean, I think a key to figuring out where a good place to learn might be just looking at how much runoff and look at the proximity of the walls. You can see that by going and looking at people's video who've driven there before. Or just looking at a track map.
What do you think,
Jeremy? Is that what you're thinking about?
I would. Oh, sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
No, I don't know, Jeremy. What are you thinking?
I totally agree with that. I mean, you need to have a head on your shoulder. You need to leave that big chip that usually sits right here. You need to leave that at home. That's really the most important thing when going out and experiencing a racetrack for the first time. If you have good instructors and good people around you, I think that really you have to use whatever track is close to you. So if you do have that high consequence track, just keep that in mind. But if you can get to a track that, like Ben said, has a lot of runoff and is very forgiving in the event of an incident, definitely prefer to go to that track over that high consequence track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
Jeremy, what is you consider your home track?
So my home track is actually New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Okay.
Which I would consider, I would consider that track a little bit consequence heavy. So my first Lemons race, my first real actual wheel-to-wheel racing was actually there with 127 cars on that track. So
that's a lot for that place.
So I jumped in feet first and thrown to the wolves, and it was fun, and I knew that it was my first time out there wheel to wheel, and I was very cautious and very careful, and like I said, you got to leave that big huge chip that's right here. You got to leave that away from the racetrack. You drive through the gates, that chip needs to stay at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is your home track? What do you consider your home track?
Proximity wise, it's New Jersey. Well, no, proximity wise, it's Pocono, but I'm not taking it. Proximity wise, it's New Jersey. Next would be Pit Race. The one I've driven on the most is Mid Ohio or New Jersey. New Jersey's got two tracks.
What do you consider your home track? The track that is
whatever track I'm at that weekend, baby. Whatever track I'm at. So
I like that.
The correct answer to this question is you have the responsibility to keep track of your car. You can go to these high consequence tracks. Most of the high consequence tracks are going to be the famous tracks, the Watkins Glen, the Road Atlanta, Charlotte Roval, out west. I'm trying to think what out with Mid Ohio in the center. A lot of the older tracks that were built into the countryside, they don't have a lot of runoff room. They have a lot of trees. They have a lot of concrete walls and ugly things that you don't want to hit. But if you're really early in your career, realize that you're early in your career and don't push it and drive within yourself and control yourself. There's nothing wrong with going to these tracks as a first time, but you've got to realize that if you miss by a couple feet at Watkins Glen, it can be a very expensive day. Yes, Mr. Dawson.
I have stuff to say about this, and it's mostly agreeing with you. Like, yeah. And also Jeremy said the same thing. You got to go to the track that's your easiest opportunity to get to. And when you do go there, if you're a first time there or something like that, you're going to have an instructor in the car with you, who's keeping you alive and keeping you within the bounds of the course, unless you're just like a crazy person who's unwilling to listen to the instructor who is there to keep you alive. And I've also got to fall back on sort of almost all of us have a pretty good, enlightened sense of self-interest, right? Like, we kind of all have should all have like a little bit of a danger radar for like, this feels like it's going to be bad. But, you got that instructor in the car with you at the very outset, sort of setting boundaries for you. But also, there's going to be 20 dudes around the track who are, I've been here 100 times, and they're going to tell you a lot of the things that you need to look out for. There's going to be so much paddock chatter and BS. This is a good time to pay attention to it when you're brand new. If somebody's talking to you about pitfalls and specifically dangerous spots of that track. So there's always going to be people kicking out lore and talking about this and that and telling stories. And that's good to pay attention to some of that when they're talking about the scary stuff and the particular foibles or dangerous areas at that track.
So one of the reasons I'm really happy we did this one with Jeremy online is Jeremy's probably got more experience driving with new and relatively new drivers on tracks than anybody else on this podcast, because he does instructing for Extreme Experience.
Right.
So he's out there with people who most likely it's their first or very first few times on track. Likely their first time in that car with cars with exceptional capability. And he gets to sit right seat and hold on tight. And
how terrifying.
Let's just put it this way. It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. That's literally what I was just thinking. It is not for everybody.
That is not for everybody. But I mean, really, you really have to understand and you got to realize, we as racers and drivers and instructors, we want everyone to come out on track and we want everyone to have a good time. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how to do it, just get a hold of somebody that does it, get a hold of Garage Heroes in Training, via all the social media. But the big thing you need to understand when you do come to a track for your very first time is there are zero, let me say that again, there are zero Formula One scouts there. You are not going to get a contract. What? You can lose if you don't want to listen, but the big win is that you go home and you had a great time and your car is in one piece. That is your win for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. So
I'm shattered, by the way. I thought they were watching me. But anyway, Vicki, you're vroom vroom.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson, you're going to be Jen's beep beep, and we got to come up with a name. We got to come up with a car sound for Jeremy. Do you have a car sound? What do you want to be, Jeremy?
Squealing brakes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Very well. When driving in the car, the instructor in the right seat, who's responsible for the safety of the car?
Beep beep.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson.
That is the guy who makes you sign the thing at the gate. He's ultimately in charge of everybody.
Wrong.
Or girl. It could be a girl. I got it wrong. I should have been more gender inclusive. Guy or girl who makes you sign the thing or at the gate.
I appreciate your facetious answer, but no.
Okay. All right. School.
Oh, we got breaks.
Okay.
I heard that Jeremy Hall coming in for first time playing the dumb game that Bill comes up with off the top of his head.
The person that is in control of the vehicle is ultimately responsible. The guy that has his hands on those steering wheel, the guy that can push that brake, the guy that can push that gas.
Okay. All right. I'm with it.
So I have heard stories. I don't know that these are factually true, but I have heard stories of a driver at an HPDE that drove straight off the track because the instructor didn't tell them to turn.
I almost did that. I was relatively brand new with NASA. I think I was in an intermediate and they still had an instructor in the car, but I was at CMP and I'd never been there. It was like my third track day ever. And this guy, terrible instructor, like it smelled terrible. Let me just start there.
He smelled terrible.
He was camping at the track and he had already been there a day sweating before I even got there. Anyway, so it was horrible being in the car with this guy, but he was one of those instructors who's like, brake. So he was calling out the brake zone, every single brake zone. So I started to rely on it. So I came off that turn out after the kink where you go into that really sharp left hand. Mm-hmm. I'm like, whoa, he's really got me braking deep. By the time I was like, oh, this guy's not going to say anything. It was way late. So, it ended up like flat spotting the tire. I'm not sure if I went off, but I was definitely roasting the tire thinking like, is this guy going to say brake? And I was MFing that guy the whole rest
see
of
that
the
happening
weekend.
though. I could see that happening.
He had me completely trained. It was like Pavlov's dog. Brake, all right, brake, all right, brake, all right. And then he just stopped. The one time I'm like, MF, are we going to say something or not? And it was rough. So I'm that guy. I'm that student. I was that person back then in 2006 or whatever.
You were that guy, huh?
That was me. The story was me.
I learned to trust myself that day.
Mr. Hall, do you have any comments on Mr. Dawson's?
I think that's fantastic. I really do. So when I'm instructing, I actually get the opposite. I get those, those guys that, I've watched, hundreds of laps of videos and, I
play Gran Turismo all the time.
Right. And, I know this track and I like to play the game of, let's see how well you really know the track. And, get out to the first turn and kind of see what they do, where they go. And all of a sudden they're slamming on the brakes because they don't remember where they are on track. And it's like, okay, well, let's learn the track. Let's figure this out together. Let's, at least that, they're not just going balls out and, putting it in a situation where we've got to lock up the brakes and flat spot the tires and
send it,
just send it. Right.
Send it. It'll be fine. What could go wrong?
I remember having a conversation with a person about their, interest in driving once they found out that we were driving. He goes, I think I'd be good at that. I drive a lot. I drive a UPS truck. And I'm like, I don't think it's the same.
Get a lot of miles, but they're a little different. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We story time. We had somebody stop by the paddock the other day, and they're like, I love to drive fast. And I'm like, you don't need a really fast car to start. It was just like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Don't worry about making a car fast. Worry about getting
like, yeah, they're ready to build their car. They're talking about, wanting to get into it and building a car. And they're like, just get a case swap. You put a case swap in it and then, get a turbo. And I'm like, you just need a car. Don't do anything.
Anybody
for your first car, don't do anything.
Go learn to drive it. Go put your butt in the seat. That's all you got to do.
Right. That's what I tell them.
That's right.
Yep. That's it. Ben, wasn't it you that said you need like 800 horsepower your first time on track?
I've said that, but since then I've revised it because, every year you hear NASCAR engines are revving higher. They're revving like 10 grand now. Now they got almost 1,000 horsepower. So I can't do 800. I got to have like at least 850. That's my new number. So that was me.
Yeah.
The numbers changed.
And stock brakes, stock brake fluid, stock 800 treadwear tires. Yep. With 800 horsepower.
Totally.
That's the way to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Let me get my Hellcat out here and take it to the track with 707 horsepower.
You could not be more right, Ben. 800 horsepower is the perfect amount of horsepower to go on track for the first time, as long as you're totaling up 4 or more cars.
Yeah, I agree.
800's perfect.
Yeah, 5 to 6 cars.
5 to 6 would be great.
If you're going to go on track and you have a friend that has a Miata, take the Miata.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can't drive a Miata fast,
years.
If you can't drive a Miata fast with 90 horsepower, you can't drive anything fast.
Yep. Yeah. Or you could drive everything else really fast.
Well, that's true.
If you could do the Miata.
That's the Ben Dawson story.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. All right. Sounds like we've covered the high impact tracks. What would be some examples of high impact tracks we've all been to? We'll start with Miss Vicki. She's been to the least number of tracks.
Carolina Motorsports.
No,
CMP.
Charlotte Roval.
Oh, Charlotte Roval. I'm sorry. It was a Charlotte Roval. I get the Carolinas mixed up. I haven't even been to Carolina Motorsports, but
West Carolina.
Yeah.
West Carolina.
Yeah, that was
North
probably
Carolina.
the most high consequential.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
High consequence track for you, Mr. Hall?
Oh God, they all vary so much. Some of them have high consequence with a lot of low consequence in them. Recently, I would say probably a high consequence track for me recently was Homestead, Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
The walls are Very, very close.
So blue, so close.
Yeah.
Are they still blue? Yeah.
Some of them are. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's safe to say pretty much any roval, of course, that's largely an oval track that has an infield course built into it. You're likely to interact with some big high-speed sections of the oval, and then also have to transition. There's plenty of consequence at any of those places. Like I got to race Las Vegas, in a roval configuration in the middle of the night. It felt pretty hairy.
Oh, that must have been awesome, though.
Yeah, do a roval at night with no headlights. Yeah, that was us.
This car had just enough headlights to go like highway speed, but as soon as you're bombing off like 110 miles an hour in a NASCAR turn one, you're just like, I know it's here. It's going to be here. I can't see it, but I know it's in here.
I tried going to the infield to take pictures of Vicki when she was driving, and I couldn't take pictures of her because it was just black.
It was dark, and I had no headlights.
That's too funny.
It's terrifying.
This is when Kathy was still running Chump and not in charge of Lucky Dog. And she goes, they'll turn on the official NASCAR Musco lighting system for you if y'all want, but it's $20,000. And she's like, do y'all want to kick in? Each team kick in X amount of dollars. And we were like, no, absolutely not. But it was a lot of fun.
This is too much fun.
I've been to, I think the places, there are some places that seem like they would be really consequence heavy that aren't as bad. Like I think Road Atlanta is a little bit of a scarier place just because of the higher speeds than maybe Sears Point. Sears Point's got the walls right there, but it's not as much of a high speed track. So yeah, I think there are varying degrees, like Jeremy said. But I think a place like Road Atlanta, a place like Watkins Glen, those are all places where you're getting up to pretty high speeds, and the walls are just right there. So those are places where you definitely want to have a highly tuned sense of enlightened self-interest and be able to take care of yourself. And I mean, part of that is just you got to teach yourself what's too much. Whether it's in race traffic or with your car, you just have to start developing a good sense of what can I get away with and what can't I get away with. And that's you. I mean, when I'm in the car with a relatively new or intermediate student, usually that's all I'm trying to teach them is, yes, you can get away with this. I'm usually going with, let's go. I'm usually cheerleading and saying, yeah, you can do that. You can trust me. You can do this. So, I think there's you're building up your knowledge to what can I get away with, and then, but all the way to the point of, don't overstep too, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big part of survive. That's just, you got to survive a high consequence place. You got to dial it back a little bit. You got to kind of recalibrate what you expect to be able to get away with. Because if I know if I'm coming out of Oak Tree at VIR, I know it's not the end of the world if two wheels come off. But if I'm coming out of turn 11 at Watkins Glen, two wheels come off, you're in the wall and you're just you're spinning down the straightaway, crashing into stuff. So it just sort of depends on what you can get away with. Depends on your surroundings.
Yep. Like AMP. Have you guys all been on AMP?
I have not driven it yet.
So AMP has it's a great track and it's a lot of fun, but there are a lot of spots in that track where you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. But luckily, most of those spots have some runoff. But yeah, there's some spots in that track that you could definitely get in trouble.
Not that sweeper when you're coming off onto the main straight. That sweeper, if you get out of straight there, you are just SOL. Ask me how I know.
Yes,
I went through somebody's diff juice and did not catch it. I caught it. And then by the time I grabbed the steering wheel, I thought I had it centered. I must have been one turn off and just went boom, straight in the wall.
So, especially when you're new, especially when you're early in your driving career, and it doesn't matter if you drive 25,000 miles a year for 20 years, you're still early in your driving career on track. Listen to the internal voice that says, hey, this is scary, or hey, I don't know that I got it. Listen to that voice because you don't got it.
You don't got it.
Part of getting better.
You don't ever have it.
Is working through that and expanding what you do have. But in the beginning, if you hear the internal voice saying, hey, just shut it down. You should listen to that voice. That voice is smart.
It goes back to there are no Formula One scouts in the stands.
But those trophies, they're worth millions that you get for the fastest lap in HPDE. But the fastest lap in HPDE, how much do I get?
Since we're beating all the drums, there's also no time. Make up any time on the road course. If you messed up, you're not making the time back up. That's just one more little nugget for all of us to remember all the time.
All the time.
If you could make up the time by doing something different, you would do that every time.
Right. Since we're just beating the best drums that we know, these are all just some true facts.
Yes.
To remind everybody of.
The only thing I would say, though, Ben, is Miss Vicki shaved so much time off of New Hampshire Motorsports Park the first time she went out for practice. She saved like 48 seconds because she just went straight through instead of going up the hill.
I didn't know the track. Didn't know the track.
That is awesome.
I did. It wasn't blocked off either. It wasn't.
So you're the reason they blocked it all off.
Yes.
Probably.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, everybody else is doing
time. Like, wow.
Everybody else is doing like 145, or I'm just picking a number, 145, 142, 142. Vicki puts up like a 38.
Fast.
She just did the oval. It was fantastic.
I did the oval. I'm like, oh, this is easy.
That's amazing.
This track is so short.
Oh my God. Well, it didn't, you know how that bottleneck going up that hill, it doesn't look natural. It doesn't look natural at all.
It does not.
The cars in front of you go in a different direction. Had nothing to do with your path, though, huh?
And Jennifer learned how to drive a stick on that track.
True.
Oh man,
we had her driving a stick for 1 week before we put her on there. She could barely make it up that hill. When she got up to the top of the hill, they had the guys in the flag stand threw their arms up. It was like she made it.
Like the wave. Yeah. We had this great plan. We taught her how to drive a stick, but she lives in Delaware. So in Delaware, like getting into bed is the biggest hill you have to conquer the entire day. So when she gets to New Hampshire and she's going up the hill, she didn't realize that you could downshift because the cars just started huffing and puffing and then they eventually just came to a stop on the hill. And she'd never been on a hill.
Oh no.
Because Delaware's flat. I mean, if you think sandbar, Delaware, flat. And it was pretty funny. So, anyway, fun you can have in New Hampshire. It was fun, though. All right, very well. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.